Statistics tell the truth, except when they're lying. On today's show, we're going to dig into the numbers and try to figure out what we really know about this Predators team after going 1-2-1 on their early Canadian road trip.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off our Monday shouting out our Locked On Predators insiders and our everydayers who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer and co-host with Penalty Box Radio and Friends. I have a Thelma to my Hockey Louise.
That you do. I'm Emma Lingan, and I'm an NHL reporter and host for the Hockey News.
Well, the Nashville Predators wrapped up their early season Canadian road trip Saturday night in Winnipeg. Yep. On today's show, we're going to break down that Jets loss, including our one word to describe the game. We're also going to tell you what we liked and what we really didn't like about that Saturday night performance. We're also going to dig into some advanced statistics about this Canadian road trip that tell a little bit of a confusing story about those 4 games. Plus, we are going to piece together the picture that is very slowly coming together about this season's Nashville Predators. Before we dive into all of that, do want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. All right, Emma, the boys are coming home. They have been up in Canada enjoying maple syrup and beaver. I don't know, up in Canada. They are headed home for a 5-game homestand, but we're going to take a look at this Canadian road trip, and we're going to start more focused in on that Saturday night loss to the Winnipeg Jets. Emma, if you had to describe that 4-1 loss to the Jets in one word that is FCC compliant, how would you describe that game?
So my word would be deja vu, because a lot of people were saying after, or maybe not a lot of people, but some people, I know at least some of our insiders were saying after the Montreal game, oh, we've seen this before. They give up a lead it's just like last year and blah, blah, blah. I didn't think that the Montreal game was like last year. This Winnipeg game, that was like last year. Nashville got off to such a slow start. They went behind early and then never caught up. Now, I will say they actually put forth a good effort in the second period. They did everything but score the second period. But the first period, it was like they thought the game started 20 minutes later. I don't know, but it was rough watching. There were some bright spots. I thought Luke Evangelista had a good game. I thought Nick Blankenburg in his season debut had a very good game. They did go 11-7 with Jonathan Marchessault day to day. So, I mean, there were things to like, but I don't know. After the Montreal loss, the overtime loss, I thought, okay, there are definitely some things to work on, but overall, I didn't feel negatively about it. I feel pretty negatively about this one. I mean, this is very clear, the difference between the haves and the have-nots in terms of, like playoff contenders in the NHL. So we had talked about it last week on the show about how this game would be a good sort of measuring stick for Nashville. And it was just maybe not the results that we would have been hoping for.
Yeah, Nashville came up wanting in that comparison, not just in the score, but in general. My one word is probably going to tick off that very teeny tiny small circle in the middle of the Venn diagram of people who love hockey and people who love musicals. So like all the 3 people I'm getting ready to outrage just go with me on this journey. My one word is Phantom of the Opera. It wasn't terrible, but I would not want to go see it again, friends. I know everybody talks about Phantom of the Opera. I saw it once. I would not pay to see it again. I can look back on it and there are some things I can appreciate about it. Like I like the costumes and, I thought the vocals were really challenging, but I wouldn't want to sit through it again. And that is how I feel about this Winnipeg Jets game. There is a couple things, like you said, there are a couple little pockets of things looking back that I'm like, I can appreciate that Nashville had a couple of little pockets of positive things to take away from this game. And it wasn't 60 minutes of disaster. It was 20 minutes of disaster. But I wouldn't really want to watch that game over and over again for the rest of this season. It just was not terrific. It's not what I would pay to see again. We, of course, talked to our insiders during and after games, talking about their one word. Here are some of their one words. My one word, expectations met. I love my Nashville Predators, but they were simply outmatched. It's all right. Just shake it off. It was expected. Time to go home and reset. Another insider said disappointing. Another commented sad. The first few games gave me a glimmer of hope, but the truth is when Juuse isn't superhuman, we can't keep up with good teams. And I missed the loud line. Another one word, futility. The team has grit and energy, but they cannot score. They just can't. Another's one word, meh. I'm like, yes, meh. That was a meh game. It was not one where you felt like you needed to go get a paper bag out and put over your head, but it also was not one where you were going to go get your coolest Nashville Predator swag and put it on either. It was a measuring stick. It was a measuring stick.
It was. And when I say it feels like last year, I mean, I don't feel like last year in the sense that we've now seen one of these losses this year, just one. It's okay. Like, I don't feel, well, there goes the season after this one game. I don't feel that way. But we saw so much like this where it's like they fell behind early and they couldn't catch up. But again, things to like. They definitely came out guns blazing in the second period. I mean, like I said, did everything but score. But the first period was rough. They didn't even try. It didn't look like they even tried. Also, the power play still terrible. Winnipeg gave them so many free opportunities and they did absolutely nothing with them. And it's just, I mean, they were just playing a lot around the perimeter. All they did was pass back and forth. I was actually talking to someone who doesn't watch the Predators regularly, but tuned in for part of that game. And he was like, yeah, the power play is kind of weird. It looks like they just pass it around to each other. And I'm like, yes. Now you understand what we're stuck watching every game. So it's not just us people. I thought, with regards to Juuse Saros, again, the goals that he did allow were really good goals. I mean, they were, it wasn't like, oh, he should have had that or he was out of place or anything like that. I mean, just some really beautiful, not just goals, but the passes, the playmaking that led to the goals, just really, really sharp by Winnipeg. And that's the part that is just very much measuring stick for Nashville, where you're like, oh, that was a nice play. It would be nice if we got some of those sometime. But
yeah. And it's not even, like you say, it's not even that Nashville just can't score, which they're struggling to do, but it's that you don't see them score those kind of goals. And teams that are going to compete at the highest level in this league have to be able to execute well those kind of goals, like the tic-tac-toe goals, the goals where the passes are tape to tape and the goaltenders simply cannot move fast enough to keep up. And Nashville does not execute those. Right now, they're struggling to execute any of the other kind as well. So there's
I was going to say, we would take some ugly goals too.
Oh.
Those are fine. We don't discriminate here. I mean,
no, we would 100% take the ugly stepsisters from Cinderella at this point. 100%. Yeah. Yeah, it was a tough game in Winnipeg. Coming up, we're going to hear from Andrew Brunette as we look back, step back, and he's going to tell us what he thinks the takeaway is for this team when it comes to this Canadian road trip in its entirety. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Monarch. Let's be honest. Most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth between 401ks, savings, and investments. It's so easy to lose track, and that could mean leaving money on the table. That is why I started using Monarch. It is an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. It's helped keep my files organized, things like my accounts, tracking my spending, getting a better handle on investments without having to touch a spreadsheet. I also love that I can review everything with my husband. We can see our shared goals and we make better financial decisions together. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use our code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com. That's monarch.com for 50% off your first year. Again, check it out at monarch.com and use code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. All right, Emma, talking about statistics, they tell the truth except for when they lie. You look at the Winnipeg Jets game and just pulling a couple of statistics. And of course, there are a lot of different things that you can measure, engage in advanced statistics. But we talk about Corsi 4, which is an indicator of puck possession, who's kind of controlling the puck in the game. Nashville, 64% Corsi 4 in this game against the Winnipeg Jets. When you're talking about expected goals for, which is quality of shots and number of shot chances, Nashville was better. On paper, they should have scored more goals than Winnipeg. They had 13 high danger chances to Winnipeg's 10. None of that matters, friends, because the final score is 4-1 and Nashville gets 0 points. Those are the numbers that in the end matter. And so when you step back and you look at this game and you step back and you look at how the Predators did on a 4-game road trip going 1-2-1, it makes you think, what are we really seeing here? So Emma, when you think about this trip, these 4 games in their entirety, Nashville earned 3 of 8 points. What does that tell you? What is sort of the shadow that is starting to emerge about the Predators from this kind of information?
Well, I still think that, it's clear they still have a goal scoring problem.
Yeah.
Even when they create the chances, as you said, they're not finishing them. I think so many of those chances, again, were on the man advantage, or in the case of the Winnipeg game, at one point, the 2-man advantage, and Winnipeg still managed to clear the puck twice in like that 20 seconds of 6-on-4. So I just think that, there's a lot of work still to be done. There's things to like. Now, that's an improvement from last year. They're doing the foundational things right when it comes to, like the puck possession and things like that. But they're slow. They're very slow.
They are.
And they're not scoring. And it's going to show you that solid defense and really good goaltending, both of which they have had, are not going to be enough to win you enough games. They'll steal you some games, but they're not going to win you enough in this league. So I think that, the defense is fine. The defense is good. It's solid. The goaltending is spectacular with Juuse Saros. It's the offense.
It's the offense. And when you look at this roster, this is just what I will say. When you look at the names on this roster, this is not a roster that should have a problem with finishing. It's a roster that's going to have problem with speed and perhaps the transition game, but this is not a roster of players who have never stumbled into goal scoring before. And yet here we are repeating that problem from last season. And I agree with you. Love defense. Like the goaltending, Juuse Saros, stop already. They're dead already. Quit. He's so good.
But also, please don't, because
But
you're the
also
Nashville
don't.
Predators' only hope of winning any games, apparently, because they don't score goals.
Yes, the poor guy. Bless Juuse Saros. Andrew Burnett was asked after the Winnipeg game, what do you take away from this 4-game Canadian road trip? And I thought he had a really interesting answer, Emma. This is what he had to say.
Well, I think you see the images of when we play a certain way, and it's a good picture. So for us, going forward, we need to be a little bit more consistent with that. Right from the puck drop, and for the most part through this trip, we have been. So to me, it was a good road trip. I think it's stacking some stuff to build our identity here a little bit.
He says, to me, it was a really good road trip. And I know that Nashville had that Montreal game in hand, and then 21 seconds, poof, there it goes. But I don't necessarily disagree with him. I think that there was a lot of good on this road trip. And I do think that Nashville is getting it way sooner this season than they never really got it last season. And I think that that is encouraging. I think you're seeing more consistency. I think you're seeing, like you said, much better defense and goaltending. You're seeing a lot of things to like, but they can't get it done. And look, a 2-2-2 record 6 games in is so much better than a 1-5 record. But there are still some concerns about this Nashville Predators team. And it comes down to offense. Who would have thought that it would come down to offense? Again. I
mean, good Lord. Nick Perbix has 2 goals already. Isn't that's like tied for the team lead right now?
Just how we drew it up.
Yeah. Offensive juggernaut Nick Perbix has 2 goals already. I mean, like, it is frustrating. And, we talk a lot about, Barry Trotz and the team wanting to prove last season was a fluke. That's not who this team is. And I think defensively and goaltending wise, that is accurate. I think last year was not a good depiction of what this team is capable of. Offensively, though, and again, it's only 6 games in, but offensively, we're really not seeing a huge difference from last year. Now, granted, it would probably be a little irresponsible to expect a complete 180. They just come in and, just can't stop scoring goals. But I think you would still expect a little bit more something here. And, it is frustrating. But it's one of those things that, defense doesn't win you enough games. It doesn't get you to the playoffs in this league, not in today's NHL. You need to have that dynamic goal scoring. And we know that they have individual players on that roster who are capable of that. I mean, you have Philip Forsberg, you have Steven Stamkos, you have Jonathan Marchessault, but they're just not delivering. I mean, I think that the most productive line, of course, until Marchessault was out day to day with the injury, was the Bunting, Marchessault, Holla line. And they're not exactly known for being like elite goal scorers.
Yeah.
But they get those ugly goals. They get to the front of the net. It's not pretty, but they make it happen. And so it's like, that's great when you have your third line having that kind of identity. That's great. But you want the 2 lines ahead of them to be like the pretty goal scorers, and they're not doing that. And so, again, I am not anywhere near ready to throw in the towel on this season and say, well, season's over. Because as you pointed out, I think it's huge. They're getting it now. They're catching it now, early in the season. Now, does that guarantee that they're going to fix it? No. But I feel like they are better equipped to after going through what they did last year. So we'll see what works. But it really does make me question, does it come back to coaching? Is this a systematic problem? Like with the structure and the scoring problems? Because again, like, I don't know, I don't know what specifically the problem would be. I just find it so hard to believe that it's like all of a sudden these guys just forgot how to score.
Yeah. And for me, it's that no demographic at this point has shown success. And again, 6 games in, we're not writing it off, but this is something that has to go to the front of the of note drawer because your veterans are not on fire. Forsberg has 1 goal, Stamkos 1 goal, Yossi 1 goal. So your veterans aren't producing like they can and should, but you also from the young demographic aren't getting them stepping into that goal scoring quite yet. Fedor Svechkov right now has 0 points in 6 games. Vange has 3 assists, but no goals. And that's not a criticism and saying, oh my gosh, these guys are washed up and Svechkov can't do it and Evangelista is a waste of money. It's just saying there has to be a way to unlock these young players and equip the veterans. And it hasn't happened yet. That's not to say that it can't, but it hasn't happened yet. And I think you have to be mindful of that and you have to put a pin in that because, like you said, you are simply not going to win NHL games unless you are scoring goals. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, I think that it, like you said, it's a combination of the veterans and the younger players who are not getting it going. And it does give you a little bit of a chicken and egg conundrum. It's like, well, do we need to get the kids going to light a fire under the older guys, or do the older guys need to lead the way? I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's a combination of both. But I think that it's when your entire offense as a whole just goes silent. I mean, there were times during that Winnipeg game where it looked very much like the power play passing drill had transcended into the 5-on-5 play, because it's like, good Lord. And that's what makes me wonder truly if this is a systemic problem where it's, something to do with the structure or the plays that they're running. Again, I don't know what the X's and O's are, but I think that, uh, I don't think it's a skill problem. I don't. I mean,
Yes.
speed, yes, they're lacking in speed. So that accounts for some of it, sure, but it doesn't account for all of it. And so it's got to be something, and I truly don't know what.
Yeah. Coming up, we are going to discuss what we want to see be different as the Predators are getting ready to kick off a 5-game homestand. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at FanDuel. The NFL season is in full swing, friends, and FanDuel has an offer you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet. Put down $5, and if it hits, you're going to unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You're going to love how FanDuel gives you so many different ways to play. You can build parlays, you can try those player props, and even follow the live lines during games. It's going to make watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you are a casual fan or you love diving into the statistics, FanDuel is going to make your game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, Emma, talking about some of the advanced statistics, I went back and I looked at the 6 games that Nashville has played so far. 4 of their 6 games went against one of the categories of advanced statistics, and that is expected goals for versus expected goals against. There were 4 of these games that should have swung the other way, whether Nashville won and it looked like that they should have lost or vice versa. And part of that, I think, you have to chalk up to goaltending. I think Juuse Saros has stolen games already. In a half a dozen games, we have seen Juuse Saros, and a credit to him. But I think some of those statistics also come back to, like we're talking about, Nashville is generating some high danger chances. They are getting some shots. If you look at the heat map from last night, Nashville has some shots in front of the net where it looks a little spicy, like the slot is not lava. They're getting that memo. They are just not finding the back of the net. And so it's confusing to know exactly who this team is yet. And again, 6 games in, but you really want to get some idea because we spent a lot of last season going, okay, what's real and what's not real? Are we really more like the 2023-24 Predators, or are we really the 24-25 Predators? Because those two are very, very different things. Those are very, very different things. And as I watch this team in the first 6 games, my way too early observation, hear me when I say this is a way too early observation, is that this is a team that's going to need an 18 game point streak to get into the playoffs. That's what I think this team might need already.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, if you're using everything's relative. So if you're looking at last year, nothing was saving this team. Not even an 18 game point streak was saving
ma'am.
this team. That ship sailed week 1 of the season. But here this team looks much more to me like the 23-24 Predators. Defensively sound, goaltending is elite, but they can't score. They're going to need some luck. They're going to need an 18 game point streak to maybe sneak in to the playoffs. And again, I agree with you, way too early, but it does look like that. Now, the positive of that is that it looks like a team that could be capable of such a streak. Which again, couldn't say that last year, but they look capable of such a streak, but it's not a sustainable formula,
Yes.
to win games and to get into the playoffs, especially in this division. And so I think that it's early, and I want to see what they do here now that, they've come back home. Like you said, 3 of a possible 8 points on the road. Fine. But, you want to see what they can do at home. I am glad that they got on the road a little bit earlier this year, like for a longer trip. I think that's really important. They didn't have that last year, and they just never really gelled. So I think that that's good that they did that. But yeah, now you're going to have to see what happens after that Winnipeg game. You're coming home, you're resetting for, was it 4 games? 4-game homestand? I mean,
5. Yeah.
5-game
5.
homestand, including a very big one against the Dallas Stars next weekend. So
Can hardly wait. It's a lot of grilled cheeses, and I may need every single one of them, friends. That is a fact. What is so confounding to me, and I know we've talked about this, but I just keep coming back to the goal scoring. Shouldn't that be the easiest problem to fix? Goaltending, that is a tricky wicket, sticky wicket, whatever the thing is. Goaltending is a mystery unto itself. That is wizardry. So that's a little tricky. Defense, that's a systems adjustment. That is goaltending. You put the puck in the net. Now, yes, there are X's and O's and there are systems for that and all of that, but this should be a problem this roster can solve to some degree. To some degree, this roster can be much better offensively. Now, I don't think that this roster has, and I say this respectfully, I don't think that they have a Dallas Stars offensive roster. I don't think that they have a Winnipeg Jets offensive roster, but they can be so much better than they are. And so that's something I think that we're going to need to see in the next 5 games. They're in a very tenuous spot 6 games in. Ain't too shabby after last year, but you also have to keep stacking some points. This 5-game homestand, we've got Anaheim on Tuesday. We've got Canucks on Thursday. Return of life coach Kevin Lankinen. Very excited about that. Saturday and Sunday, back-to-back, LA Kings, Dallas Stars. Neither of those are going to be super easy. And then a week from Tuesday, Tampa Bay Lightning. So this is a very tenuous time in the tender early season. But Nashville's really got to get some offense together. They just have to. They cannot sustain this. Juuse Saros is one man, friends. He is one man.
Yeah.
Stop asking him to be Sisyphus.
Yeah. No, tenuous is a good word. It could be a defining juncture for this team because it is coming so early in the year. But I mean, you need to start seeing again, there's been too much inconsistency within games where you do wonder about, like, again, looking at the Winnipeg game. Had they played like they did in the second period for all three periods, would it still have been a loss? Perhaps, but they may have scored more than one goal.
It would have
in
been
the final
interesting.
minute, you know,
Mhm.
it would have been a little more interesting. There's no, I mean, we could spend all day talking about what ifs, but the point is, like, you don't want to see this become a pattern. And you could argue that it already has 6 games in, but I mean, there are going to be some good teams. I mean, Anaheim, who they have on Tuesday, I mean, that's a team. They've only played, I think, well, they will have played 5 games. But again, like, on paper, statistically, very similar numbers to the Predators in
Mhm.
terms of goals for, goals against, and the kinds of opponents that they've played. And so I think that's going to be a good, like, that should be a winnable game for Nashville on paper. But then you look at Anaheim and the fact that they have a very young, very fast roster. And it's like, well,
Mm. Yeah.
that might be the nail in the coffin. So
Yeah.
again, you can't teach them speed. You can't teach them to be faster, but there are other things that they should be using to their advantage when it comes to the goal scoring, like maybe taking advantage on the power play, perhaps, maybe.
It's
Just
just
one?
right there, y'all. It's right there. There are only 4 of them, and there are 5 of you. You can take them. You can do
Or
this.
again, when Winnipeg, when
Dude.
Nashville had like 22 seconds of 6-on-4, and Winnipeg managed to clear the puck twice in that like 20 second. Like, what are we doing?
What are we
I
doing?
screamed at the TV, and upper management, sat me down, and we had a talking to after that. But I mean, goodness, like,
Yeah.
gotta do something.
Yeah, a little goal support for Juuse Saros would go a long way through the course of these 5 games. And these are teams that you are going to have to score goals against if you're going to want to beat them. These are teams that are going to put up some numbers. And, you talk about Anaheim being a fast team. Well, what's your workaround? They can outskate you, but what can Nashville outdo against these teams? And that's the thing that they've got to put together. And I think so much of it comes back, like you said, to offense and special teams. What can you put together? I think we're going to know a lot more about this team after this 5-game homestand. And again, it's early in an 82-game season, but friends, we are so emotionally sunburned from 84 years that we just need to know. We just need to know what we're working with here. So that's why we're trying to put some puzzle pieces together as this team goes along. Oh, Emma, we're gonna see what happens over 5 games. Anne's gonna eat 5 grilled cheeses. We'll see what the Nashville Predators do.
So we know that's going to happen.
There are some things we know, friends. There are some things we know for sure. Absolutely. On tomorrow's show, we are going to preview this game against the Anaheim Ducks. We're going to dive into these teams' rosters. We're going to talk about the strengths and weaknesses and what Nashville absolutely has to do to get that win back here on home ice at Bridgestone Arena. So make sure you tune in tomorrow for that. Emma, before we log off on this Monday, will you let everyone know where they can find you and your work?
Yes, you can find me on social media at Emma_Lingan, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
You can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio as well. Friends, that's going to do it for this Monday episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks again so much for making us your first listen of the day. We will be back tomorrow with that Anaheim preview. We'll see you then.